Welcome to the Living Consciously TV show, live from our Denver, Colorado studios. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is how to live with passion and purpose. Let me introduce you to our guest cast and also our self-growth cast on the show today. Our guest cast is Pip McKay. She's a personal coach, NLP practitioner, as well as a speaker, and she's joining us from Australia. Welcome to the show, Pip.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you. We also have next to Pip, is Ninon de Verderosa. She's part of our self-growth cast, and she's coming to us from Las Vegas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for being on the show. It's great. Welcome, Pip.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ninon. And next to Ninon is Jane Eileen Cohn. She is also part of our self-growth cast and spirituality cast, and she's coming to us from San Diego, California. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. Glad to be here.
Awesome. And then last but not least, we have Helen Carrison. She is also part of our self-growth cast, and she's coming to us from Brussels, Belgium. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. It's a real pleasure to be with you all.
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to this show. Living life with passion and purpose is something that certainly I've been living inside of for the last 8-9 years. And my leading question to Pip is, what is really passion? A lot of people have come across, my life, and every time we talk about passion, a lot of people look at me with glazes in their eyes, like they don't really know what I'm talking about when we're talking about passion. Can you clarify that for us?
Well, Steve, I think passion is that feeling you have inside that your life is on purpose, that you're doing what you really want to do, and you feel that you've got this enthusiasm. So it's not necessarily happiness. It's more a sense that your life is on purpose and you're really fulfilling what you feel you were born for.
Okay. And how do people know? Like how would people recognize it within themselves?
I think it's a real feeling that, life's worth living. I want to get up in the morning. I can't wait to go and do what it is that I want to do. I can't wait to tell other people about it. I feel lit up. I just feel enthusiastic, and that, I'm excited and enthusiastic. I think it pretty much sums it up. And it is a real feeling in the heart of that you're filled with spirit and light, and you just can't wait to get out and share it with people.
Okay. I think it would be great if we go around the table and just each of us maybe share with the viewers what is passion like for us, and how does it show up in our lives? So who would like to go next?
Okay, Steve, I would jump in there. Actually, I agree with Pip. Passion is something when you're very passionate about something, and that it could be a number of things, but normally it is sort of, as you say, your passion for doing something. And I actually had something I still am very passionate about, and that's a kids program that I started. And it's so rewarding, and I feel so enthused with it. And I wake up and I want to help these children, and it's very passionate. It's just I think it's a feeling that you personally have yourself, and I think probably each one has it differently, a different way of feeling it. And mine is just to help these children and to feel passionate about what I'm doing, and it's working. I think also, when it's working and it's all coming together, it's like, wow, I've got it. I feel passionate about it, and I want to work it.
Awesome. What about you, Jane or Helen?
I feel, for me, passion, when I'm passionate about what I'm doing, I could do it all day and not notice. It's something that it just lights you up. You see it physically in a person. But when I'm passionate, I know that it's like there's a radiance and the enthusiasm. Yeah, you just want to do this thing all the time. And if it's work, it's not work. That's it. It never feels like work. And I'm passionate about what I do, and it's life. And I want to do it always. And I think the thing is, people know when it's missing as well. They know when they haven't got that passion in their lives. So yeah, that's how it is for me.
Awesome. What is it like for you, Jane?
Well, I agree with Helen about its life. For me, it's living life energy. When I'm doing something which the living life energy is flowing through me, I'm connected to a larger source. it's inspiration. When I'm connected to inspiration, it's like I'm flying. It's the most blissful feeling you can imagine. So, and there's a vision that's been coming through me for about the past 17 years where I'm connected to sort of a source of something deeper. And when I do anything that's related to that, it's just unbelievably exciting to me. And also when I'm working with clients and they have huge breakthroughs and changes, that's wonderfully exciting for me as well.
Awesome.
But especially when the change is related to an evolutionary shift, when it feels to me as though it is part of a larger perspective beyond just that person, then I get wildly excited.
Yeah. So. and Pip, what are you passionate about? We kind of missed out on that part.
Me?
Mm-hmm. You.
What am I passionate about? Yes.
Life.
I'm passionate about my work. I love to watch people transform. And what really excites me is that sense of magic. I think it's a little bit like what Jane was saying, where you feel like you're connected to something greater than yourself, whether that is a spiritual thing or whether that's a sense of community. But yeah, I feel very passionate when I see people transform and when there's a sense of magic, when something seems to have that beauty to it. Mm-hmm. I feel very passionate about that type of thing.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for me, I'm reminded that the more passionate I get about what I do, which is obviously it's media and being with people, it's for me, it's like becoming more and more like a kid. That I don't have any fear. I'm willing to do just about anything, and I don't want to go to sleep because I'm concerned that if I do, I'm going to miss out on something, and those kind of feelings. And it's just time disappears. Like I don't even have, and it's kind of interesting because I have to live in this world of we have to keep time because I have to do like this show has to happen at a certain time. But most of the time in my life, I don't even have the need for time other than it's a convenience so that I can get with people on the phone or on Skype or on a show. But other than that, I wouldn't have use for time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it's your sense.
It's like it's playtime all the time.
Yeah.
That's how you perceive it, and that's how you take it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's it. All right, so let's examine the opposite side of this coin, which we've been talking about, passion and purpose. So why is it that 90% of the population out there are not living in this space and in this energy that we just discussed for the last few minutes? Pip?
Well, I think that's got a lot to do with societal programming, our education system. There's a lot, often parents with the best intentions have wanted people to do something that makes them money or something they feel will be successful or status orientated. And then the person's really coming out of themselves and listening to someone else's opinion about what should be good for them rather than listening to what they want to do with their life. I was very lucky. My mother said to me, do what you love and the money will come, and find a creative way to make money out of what it is you love the most to do. And I really have lived my life that way, and it's really worked for me. But for a lot of people, they feel like what I want to do won't allow me to be financially stable, so I have to do what I have to do as a job to make money, and then what I want to do is just kind of a hobby or something I do when I've got some time, and therefore they're miserable because most of their life is doing something they don't want to do for money.
Interesting. So in terms of your experience, I know I chatted with you just for a few minutes the other day, and we talked about the fact that you were probably, not probably, for sure, a very well-known expert in Australia when it comes to NLP. But I think recently you discovered something else that you're very much passionate about. Would you like to share about that? Because I think it's very much applicable to what we need to talk about today.
Yes, absolutely. I did a 20-year apprenticeship that was around archetypes, and I always really loved that, but I wasn't sure how to bring that into my work or how to make that commercially viable. And even though I really loved the NLP when I was doing it, I really felt that there needed to be something more than just the mind connection with the emotions. I really wanted to bring in something that was a doorway to our imagination, to inspiration, to intuition, to more spiritual aspects. and to bring that into coaching in a way that was practical and allowed people to get practical results. And so I've been working on that, and I'd been using it kind of in the background and with my clients and getting great results. And then I had my coaches saying to me, Pip, you're doing something else and I don't know what it is. Can you teach us that? And they could have picked it up intuitively. And so I started to teach a lot about archetypes. And I really do feel that, you know, we have an archetypal expression, and that a lot of the time we think that our passion and purpose is a particular career or a particular thing that we do, but it's really what we want from that career and the way we want to express our soul that I think really brings passion and purpose. And I think archetypes is a great way to translate what we spiritually want into a physical expression. So just as an example, one of my archetypes is the Empress, another one is the Magician, and the third one's the Innocent Adventurer. And so, you know, I have that lovely wanting freedom and to really light myself up, and that's my innocent adventurer jumping off. And then I love to create things and be very creative and nurturing and be in nature, and that's my Empress. And then my Magician, I like things to transform and there to be magic. And understanding that means that everything I do now in my physical world is a reflection of one of those archetypes and the intention behind that archetype. And that means that when I want to change, I don't get stuck in, oh my gosh, you know, now I've changed from NLP and I'm doing this, you know, I have to start all over again, because it's a continuum of this soul expression that I have in my world. And being able to understand the flavor of that soul expression really makes it easier for me to keep that as a part of my work and my life.
Okay, Pip, some of our viewers may not understand what an archetype is. Would you be willing to explain that to us?
Well, Plato saw an archetype as a universal symbolic ideal, and now there's people like Carolyn Meese talking about archetypes as roles, and that's really wonderful, like, you know, the princess, the king, the knight. And what I like about Plato's definition of an archetype is it's looking at it as being an ideal expression. So rather than an archetype being a wounded child that we would see as a shadow, we might see an archetype being like the universal mother. All over the world we know what we would like a mother to be. You know, a mother might not always be that way, and our experience of mothering might not be that way, but we all have this yearning for that understanding, that love, unconditional love, that nurturing. And, you know, that is an archetype of mother, and then there's also archetype of father. And so these are different roles that are a kind of an ideal expression of a particular form of energy. And when we can identify what our form of energy is linked to, what archetypes it's linked to, it just makes it easier for us to understand our expression, our unique expression in the world.
Okay.
It helps you to put a label on it, doesn't it? I think, you know, rather than it being just a sort of an idea, a concept, or something in your mind, you can put a label on it, you can pin it down, it makes it much more real.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the process that you put through one of your clients or a group of people in order to figure out what their archetypes are?
Well, we start by looking at their childhood dreams. So say somebody wanted to be, I don't know, a firefighter, and that's what they wanted to be. As a child, there's this idea that we've got a stronger connection to, you know, what we wanted to be before we were born. So Plato talks about that in the back of the Republic in a little book called The Myth of Ur, that we choose our destiny. And so what we look at is, okay, in childhood, you're much closer to that destiny. So say you wanted to be a firefighter, but really that's just a child's understanding of that expression. What's the purpose of being a firefighter? It might be to rescue people. And what's the purpose of that? To make a difference to people and make sure that they are not suffering. And so we might kind of go, okay, well, this is more like a knight. And then you don't have to be
a life coach.
Yeah.
But also as a child, you don't have the actual feeling of what really is a firefighter. You don't realize what you really have to do. So you kind of fantasize that this sort of childhood dream that I want to be a firefighter and I want to do this, because you see all the probably the pretty parts of it. You don't really actually see what it really is. And then when you start understanding what it is, then you sort of either back off or you go forward, because you say, well, that's really what I want to do. Or you back off and say, well, wait a second, that's a little dangerous. And that's, as you grow older, you start to understand what things really, really are. As a child, you definitely fantasize because you just don't know, because you're too young.
Well, I think you gain fear as well.
I think
Sorry,
maybe
Jane.
that's what the what makes the difference between archetype or not, or purpose or not, which is when you're not connected to inspiration or purpose or archetype, you're sort of stuck in the mundane, the physical, day-to-day specific world that you inhabit. But an archetype brings it to a larger frame of reference beyond the day-to-day physical experience, and then it connects you to a larger reality beyond just the limitations of the human perception. That's what makes it. That's what gives it inspiration. That's what gives it power.
So in your experience, Pip, when do people become open to this kind of I would say, unfolding or looking? When do people begin to be open to this, in your experience?
I think it comes down to what everybody so beautifully shared, and that's this idea of, you know, the person has that childhood idea, I want to be a firefighter. They go and they be a firefighter. It's not what they expected. It's not what they really wanted. And then they kind of give up on their childhood dreams and they think, oh, well, that's it. And then they go on to life, and life is boring. They don't want to wake up in the morning. They get health issues. They don't have any enthusiasm for life. They feel depressed. And they don't, you know, they've sort of lost something, but they're kind of like, well, I don't know. I wanted to be a firefighter, and now it's not what I wanted, so I don't know what I want to do, and they feel lost. But if they can understand what the intention was behind that, they can find as an adult a more interesting perspective that's more fulfilling to what they really wanted, not what the fantasy was. Mm-hmm. And I know that for me, when I was a child, I wanted to be an actor. And then I got on the stage and I was like, I'm saying somebody else's lines. I have to be told what to do, and I'm a freedom fanatic. I don't want anyone telling me what to do. And then,
completely different story as a child. As a child, you think, oh, it's great, it's wonderful. But also, as you were saying, when people will wake up in the morning and they've sort of got this regular life. And unfortunately, everybody has to earn a living, and sometimes they have to go to work and they have to do something they don't want to do because they have to bring money in. And they feel fortunate enough they've got a job and never really experience or take that risk of doing something they would like to do and something that would fulfill them. And I think that's where people become afraid, because they have to bring in that daily earning, that daily bread, that daily life. They have to bring it in, and they're afraid that if they rock that boat, they're not going to get that, and that's why I think people get very uncomfortable, and they shouldn't be.
So let me
fear of trying something new as well. Sometimes, you know, we get into that zone. It's fairly comfortable, and it's like you say, Ninon. It's fear. You know, when we're children, we don't really have that fear. You know, and certainly not in our dreams. You know, when we're dreaming about what we want to be, the superhero or whatever, the fear's not there. We learn that. We learn that as we progress through our lives. So releasing that fear, I think, is key. It is key.
And also, I think parents, you know, when a child says, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be this, whatever he wants to be, oh, how wonderful, my child wants to be a firefighter. And the mother or the father bring that excitement into the child and sort of make it a little bit more real as well, because, you know, they've thought of being something. And most parents like that, because at least they're not going to be nothing, but at least they're thinking of being something. So they enhance that dream, you know?
Mm.
Okay, so I'd like to
I think fear is really a rather important issue here, because a lot of people don't even know what they want to do. A lot of people spend their entire life completely distracting themselves, doing things that give them a momentary high, which, you know, many different forms of addiction, whether it's recognized as addiction or not, it's a diversion. Is a substitute for what really matters to people, and I think that's a main reason. And it's based on fear. It's based on what I would call limiting decisions, unhealed issues, or however you want to call it. But I think that's one of the main. So people focus their lives in one direction that gives them some sense that they can control some amount of satisfaction, and they think that's the best they can do.
Okay, so let me just remind everybody that. It really makes the show much more powerful if we come from an I statement and share ourselves. So I'm going to do that right now. So yesterday I was having lunch at my house, and one of my nephews have showed up who I haven't seen for 12 years. So he normally doesn't show up.
So 12 years.
So after 12 years, he shows up unannounced. So this is what's up. So 2 months ago, he was served with divorce. A few weeks later, his dad passed away, and just a few days before, he lost his job. Now, I know that he's not the only person that these things happen to. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that there are millions of people that this stuff happens to every day. What do we have to say to this, you know, as a group of people that are definitely dedicated to consciousness and evolution? What is this an indication of?
Insecurity, well, number one, very insecure, and he's come to get saved to somebody that he probably recognized many years ago that was very stable, which is you, Steve, and he felt that he could come to you to sort his sort of life out, which he hadn't done before, and he felt secure in you.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't approach him. I was waiting for him to approach me, and it never happened. So it was like he came by. He said, I just wanted to say hi, and I felt like he was really afraid to ask me the question. And the question is obviously, hey, all this stuff is happening to me. I don't know how to sort it out. Can you help me?
Well, he did. He came to you. He had the guts enough to do that, though.
Yeah, I know.
So he was not so distant from you at all. It was just that you both were stubborn, I think. And I think he was the one that actually sort of, you know, he opened the door because he knew he was going to a safe place. For something in the back of his mind or something within him, he knew he was coming to a safe place with you.
Mm.
Okay, so you're putting out the question, what does one say, or how does one look at a situation where all these things are happening? And what I would say is that your nephew is going through a huge period of transition. So rather than seeing it as a whole bunch of misfortunes happening, his life is being shoved, shaken. There's a big change. It's an opportunity for change, for transformation. He can't keep going along the same path in the same way he's been doing it because life is sort of interrupting him, you could say.
It sucks.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Yeah, I mean,
you can look at it as if it sucks, or you can look at it as if it's an opportunity.
I mean, I always said this on the shows, that the bigger the breakdown, the bigger the possibility of the breakthrough, right?
Right.
So this is good news that he's going through this.
Yeah.
So how does
archetypes?
How does archetypes would expand his current reality? How could we help him with understanding what his archetypes are? I'm just asking a question of curiosity.
I mean, the way I think of pain and passion is they're kind of like the soul saying, are you on track or are you off track? So when you feel passionate, it's like the soul's going, warmer, warmer, yes, you're on track. and when you got pain, it's kind of like going, you know, colder, colder, no, you're off track. You know, I don't know if you played that game when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And I feel like the soul kind of does that with us in our life. And if we're off track, then it gives more and more pain. And that pain builds up by degrees. So, you know, his life's sort of been falling apart at the moment, but it would have been, first of all, a little bit of pain, and then he would have ignored that and attempted to just get on with distracting himself, like Jane was talking about. And then it was, you know, he got addicted to that distraction until it just got so much pain that he couldn't maintain that anymore. And now he's sort of like back here going, okay, I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to open myself up. Where can I go? And this would be a perfect time now for him to think about, what do I really want to do in my life? What does really light me up? Because he's got nothing to lose now. This is the time for him.
I think that's often the time when people come for help. They ask for help because either with coaches or therapists or whatever, because they're at that point where the pain actually is something they can't deal with anymore. You know, and so they're able to help.
Would anybody have a good example, a personal example, that anybody on the cast here that you have gone through this yourself?
Oh, yeah.
I've gone through, I think we all have.
How about sharing one with the viewers?
I'm happy to share.
I went through a lot of pain when I lost my husband, and then I lost my father, and then I kind of lost my mother. She had a severe stroke, and that was very devastating, though. That's a different kind of pain, but it's definitely pain because you sort of think, why did this all happen to me at one time? Well, it didn't happen to me. It happened to them, but I was the one left behind to kind of cope with it all. And it's a matter of sort of trying to understand it and trying to put it in the right perspective as where it should be and why it is and how it is. And I think understanding it, that it's not deliberately on you, but it's showing you the light of strength. And I think that's where we have to come from, is that beautiful light of strength. And stand up and hold yourself strong and say, and don't blame yourself. It's just surroundings around you now, because I'm in those surroundings. Let me sort that out because it's affecting me.
So you're saying a light of strength. That's an interesting term. So you have a sense of connecting to a light of strength. That's sort of like a plumb line or a reality for you that you can sort of step into.
Yeah, it's like well, you know, I'm a very positive thinker, and I think everybody knows that by now. And I always look at the positive side, and I always look at the light side. I don't look at the dark side of things very much. I'm not really that interested in that, though they come along. And that's where I get my light. I look at the actual thing, whatever it is going on, and what can I do about it? How can I sort about it? How can I change it? And if I can't, then I'm going to see that light. I'm going to see that light, and I'm going to let it rest, and I'm going to let it go through where it needs to go through, and I'm not going to get caught up in that canyon of darkness.
Very beautiful, Nina.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I still feel that we're still just talking in generalities.
Well,
Can we
I'll
get
share.
a tiny bit more personal?
Yeah, I'll share. I'll be very personal. So I don't mind. Ever since I was a child, I always wanted to have a baby. And then I couldn't have a baby. I went through IVF. It really took a massive toll on my health. I got terrible chronic fatigue. It was really awful. And during that period of time, I was an NLP trainer. I'd done a lot of personal and emotional clearing. And I was like, oh my God, why has this happened to me? Is there something more I'm meant to clear? And then all my hormones just completely flatlined. I went into early menopause. And it was incredibly depressing, and I couldn't really understand what had happened, and I was really devastated. And then when I started to look at this as, well, what is this meaning for me, and what can I do with this? I started to realize that what I wanted to give birth to was more of my own techniques. I'd already given birth to some of them, but I hadn't given birth to the things that I wanted to do with archetypes. And so I took that time and the space that I had, the emotional space that I had by not having a child, to really give birth to my own techniques and to move forward. And now I've been able to help a lot of women who wanted to have children. And the moment I had this sense of, I can see a reason and a purpose behind that, I've got this deep understanding, not a sort of a platitude about, if you just set a goal, you'll get what you want if you focus on it enough, which, I just couldn't do. I focused on it with every single moment of my intention, and it didn't work. And so it was a huge lesson for me about compassion for other people, about being humbled, which was a word I didn't really like very much before. And just really being able to go through the pain and see the pain and really experience that and go through my grief, but to be able to come out the other side and go, okay, what can this mean for me instead? And how can I symbolically or archetypally give birth? And so I gave birth in this way with my techniques. And then some friends of mine asked me to be godmother to their children. And I had this incredible experience with one of their little baby where I was just looking into her eyes, and I just really had this sense of, oh my gosh, I'm a mother, even if the God. And it was a tremendous experience. I cried and cried because I felt like this thing I'd yearned for all my life, I could get, just not in the way I was expecting to.
Yeah. That's funny because I went through the same thing. I also don't have children, and I also went through all those things and everything, and getting depressed and all that. And that's why I started my Kids Talk Foundation and my children. So now I'm surrounded. I have thousands of children now. So that was my outlet, was to go to children.
All right, great.
Sort of
all right, so let's switch to what I'm definitely very excited about, and I know that this is Pip's work, and that is personal evolution. What is this thing that we're all going through right now in this century, especially now we're coming towards the end of 2012, and no, I don't have any predictions about what's going to happen at the end of 2012, but what is this thing that we're all experiencing in terms of human beings are going through this evolution? A lot of people, millions of people becoming awake and becoming conscious. How do you experience that in your work, Pip?
I think there's a huge shift. I think there's been this very strong emphasis on science and materialism, which, I mean, I think is valid and are really important. But what I feel now is that people are yearning for beauty in their life, for connection, for a heart-centered idea, to connect to something beyond something spiritual. That's what I'm seeing. I see a lot of people feel very lonely, not because they're not connected to others, but because they're not connected to themselves. And they're really yearning to connect with themselves at a deep and profound level.
Great. So how could we assist our viewers right now with some ideas and maybe some modalities or some tools, how people can begin to connect? Like, for example, I believe that my nephew, and I'm going to actually give him a call either tonight or tomorrow and invite him to meet with me, if he's willing, to talk about this, because I believe that this is an inside job in terms of connecting. We all have a tendency to look for the shiny objects outside of ourselves for a long time. For some people, it's 5 years. For some people, it's 10, 20, 30, whatever it takes. We look at all these shiny objects out there, and then eventually we all come to the conclusion that what we've been looking for on the outside, it has always been within us. And how can we help or assist people right now how to make that journey to go inside?
I think, Steve, you're already doing it. Your nephew came to you and was obviously seeking something, whatever it was. Now he's gone, and now you have decided to call him, which is just what he wanted. So you are now making that connection which he reached out for. So now you're going to follow through and not wait for him. And so you're actually putting this whole thing together, which is beautiful, because everybody in the entire world wants to be loved. That's all we yearn for. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted. We want to be loved. And like Pip said, we've all sort of come, this strange thing has sort of happened where we've all become isolated. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. It's become this isolation, which is the total opposite to what we really are.
Yeah. I think you've sort of epitomized the process, I mean, because I think it's about asking, and I think it's about asking yourself. And when you're aware that there's something missing and that you want that deeper connection, the awareness is the first step in a way, and then it's about, okay, being open to it, asking, looking, searching, and when you have that openness and when you really want, then stuff will come into you. It might not be what you think, but you'll maybe pick up a book, or you'll see something online or something like that, which will actually be that first step for you, or that second step, or that third step. And it's just about being open. That's my experience. That's what I've lived, and it's what I've seen so many of my clients live. That's how they come to it. They're ready, they're open, and they ask.
Yeah, you're approachable. When you become approachable, it becomes much easier for everybody. But
it's
if
a
you have
different
this
energy.
Yeah, but you can show that energy of not being approachable. You can cut yourself off.
Absolutely.
In a crowd, in a room, you can actually not talk to anybody because you've got this sort of thing up, whatever it is. Or you can be friendly and walk in and hi everybody and be open, and then people will gravitate to you. So it depends on your persona and how you actually present yourself, of how people are going to perceive you.
And you know what? That's also to do with fear, because many people hide behind that because they're fearful. They're fearful to do it another way. They're fearful to actually expose themselves and be what they perceive as being vulnerable.
Or being accepted. They're afraid to be accepted. I might do something wrong. I might say something wrong. They might think I'm stupid. They might think whatever that's going through their heads. So they shut off.
That's fear. It's all based on fear.
Fear. Mm-hmm.
And, that's the joy of children, because they're actually fearless.
Well, they are fearless, but when they're little ones, they're shy.
Well, this is actually the theme of the show, which is passion and purpose. So don't you all think that if we can assist people to find their passion within themselves, whatever that takes, that's gonna light them up, and it's gonna transform their lives. I mean, it can happen in a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take the time and do that. Take the time. Actually,
I mean, it could take hours, weeks, months, years, and it could take a second. It's dependent on the person.
I've experienced that an awful lot with young children, actually, when I've been through so many young kids. And I've just turned around and I just sort of pat them and say, hey, I love you. And you should see their whole face. It's probably the first time anybody's ever said that someone's loved them. And you don't realize when you say something like that or you do something like that, that could be the first time, or that could really touch them and they really, wow, somebody really likes me, they really love me. And I have actually had that experience. And it's a beautiful feeling when you, and it's like reaching out, you know, not who's going to be the first one to say hello, just reach out.
All right, I just want to check this out with you. Is it true in anybody's experience that what we're most afraid of in life is most of the time what it becomes, the opposite of that becomes our passion? For example, I used to be the most frightened person when it came to public speaking. Like, I would rather die than to speak in front of a group of people or be on radio or be on television. Look what I do now for a living. But for most of my life, this was my biggest fear.
Well, it became a challenge to you. It was like something, I can't do it, I'm going to do it.
Okay, but how does this ring true for any one of you?
Yeah, same thing.
Your version
I did
of
it.
Yeah, I mean, I started out being a very, very shy, withdrawn person who hardly said a word to anyone. I remember, like, in junior high school, my voice was hoarse for lack of speaking. And now you can't shut me up. Although being out in the public is something that I've sort of felt forced to do more and more for my business to succeed. That's my guidance, and inner guidance is a very important part of getting to your passion, by the way, knowing how to follow your inner guidance. But in order for me to survive in my business, the guidance I keep getting is you have to get out there more and more and more, which is the opposite of what I've ever wanted to do. It's always terrified me. But yet there is also an inner urging to fully express what's coming through me, which is very, very strong, stronger apparently than the fear of being out there, since I'm getting myself out there more and more despite the fear. But yeah, I completely identify with what you're saying, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Pip, can I ask you a question? Pip, why do we, Steve did it, I've done it, Jane's done it, that we have this thing that we want to go out there and speak and we want to do all this stuff, and yet we're very shy and we're very reserved and we don't want to do it. What makes us sort of do that little change and sort of take the challenge on as of not wanting to do it, but I'm going to do it? Why do we do that?
Well, what I feel is that, it's not so much that the block is what becomes our passion, but the block is often the avenue through which our passion needs to be expressed. So I feel like we have that passion already deep inside, and I imagine that all those people who are talking about that block, it's not the public speaking that becomes the passion, it's I need to express this thing inside, and this thing inside is what the passion is. And then what I believe is that the fear and the block is actually a way of strengthening the soul so that it is, it's burnt off all the dross so that the expression becomes stronger, because it's through that resistance that we build the strength inside. It's a little bit like, that common story of the butterfly and the chrysalis, and it's the way, the struggle to get out of the chrysalis that pumps the blood through its wings so that it can fly. And so I think that the potential and the passion's already in there. I believe we're born with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's the struggle that we go through with our fear that strengthens our soul.
To get that out.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
So we do it.
That's really how it's felt to me. It's felt as though my passion has just been pushing me out there. It's like I've been pulled along by the passion into places where I would never go otherwise. I'm a completely different person than I was before the passion took hold of me, you could say.
Yeah.
So what does this have to do with courage? What does this have to do with courage?
Everything. Everything to do with courage.
Okay.
I mean, in order to live a life of passion, you have to be courageous.
Do you feel that there is a moment in time, there is a moment in space and time when all of us have to cross that bridge? What I'm trying to say is, because most of the time what I'm experiencing for myself, that I would rather not express myself because I was in fear. But then there came one moment in time when I said, it's enough, no more. And now I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say what I need to say. And from that moment on, I will continue to do so, so that from that moment on, I wouldn't be having this conversation with myself saying, oh no, let's not do that, because if I do that, you know, I could make a fool of myself, I could look stupid, blah, blah, blah. That conversation stopped as soon as I had the courage to stand up and say, you know what, enough.
It's when you connect with your heart. It's connecting with your heart. I mean, courage comes from the word cœur, which means heart. You know, it's the French root of it. And when you're connecting with what's at your heart, the essence of you, you can do anything. You know, and it can be that one moment that you have that heartfelt connection. You know, like you know, like you know. You know, there is no doubt.
There's no doubt.
And you just get out there and do it.
Right,
Yeah, that's being
different reality.
That's being comfortable with yourself. You're
It's
being
more
very
than being comfortable. It's
It's
more, I
stepping
think,
into-
Ninon, it's more than being comfortable, because, you know, being
secure.
comfortable has a certain, this is actually, can be quite a scary time, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because
it's
you're
stepping-
connected with you, you know,
connected
and you
to a
just do it.
different
anyway.
reality.
Yeah, it's
a
your
different
heart. I
reality.
think everything comes from your heart. I
Right,
really
it's just
do.
like when you're in the place of fear, you're in sort of a very restricted, dull reality in which you can't see anything else. The moment you step into that inspiration, into that heart connection, you are now living in a different world.
Absolutely. That's how I've
Yeah.
experienced. And sometimes I've done things, and I tell you, the split second before I do them, I didn't know I was going to do it. It just happened, and it was there. And it was only afterwards that I realized, God, you know,
What the heck did I just
Maybe
do?
just as
I just
well.
did that.
Yeah. I actually had one of those. I remember a gig that I did here in Denver for purchasing agents. There were like 500 purchasing agents in the room, and I had this beautifully created presentation that was overhead and the bullet points and all that stuff, and I kept going through it, and all of a sudden, inside of myself, I said, you know what? This is boring me, and if it's boring me, it's got to be boring the 500 agents. So purchasing agents. So I stopped the presentation. I said, you know what? I'm going to throw this presentation out of here, and I'm just going to do something that my heart calls me to do. And that is an exercise that I request everybody to do. So there was all these tables, and I had people to do an exercise. And people ended up crying in the room because the exercise was about connecting at a heart level with each other as human beings. And they walked up to me afterwards and they said, you know what, we are so glad that you have stopped your presentation, because it was boring. It was boring us.
But that's because, Steve, that came from your heart. It was true. It was everything you were saying was coming from your heart. Like Helen was saying, it's from your heart. And that just came out. The truth came out, and the whole feeling came out without you probably even knowing it. But you probably also felt very comfortable. But I have to say, Steve, that, you know, in the last few weeks or months, you've come an awful long way of approaching things and not being in fear of not approaching them.
Oh, thank you, Nina.
Yeah, you have. You've done extremely well.
I'll take that as a lovely compliment.
Well, it's the truth. That's the truth. That is from my heart.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that, you know, we've been talking about it being an inside job, but I really believe that it is an interaction between the external world and the inside, which in the end is really a reflection of each other. And I think that often we don't connect to our heart until we've had some negative emotions. And I think a lot of people are often trying to run away from their negative emotions, but usually a negative emotion's got a message. Just like for you, Steve, that emotion of, oh my God, I'm bored, was a message of, well, maybe other people will be bored. And then, you know, what can I then do that that is going to be more connected to my heart, more interesting? And then you got an inspiration.
Yeah.
And I find that, you know, like we were talking before with your was it your nephew?
Yes.
Yes, with your nephew, that it's often in this place when we've had a negative emotion that we've actually conscious of and taking notice of and being aware of, that tells us, no, I don't want to do that. And it's often just when that's happened that just after that we have this opening, like you're saying, of our heart. And then suddenly the inspiration comes through, and that's the moment where we need to have the courage to just go with it.
Yeah,
But if we
absolutely.
if we don't have the courage to go with it, guess what? We'll get such an awful negative emotion that next time we'll
And what it's actually doing is creating a space. It's like standing in the unknown in the question, which allows inspiration to come in. It allows the space for inspiration. If you keep going where you're going and and keep blocking anything else from coming in, then you won't get it. But if you stop and you listen and you open up, that's when it can happen.
Fear of fear
Yeah.
itself.
So I think the message to the viewers definitely. I mean, back me up on this. That the message definitely is that when we have that internal calling, however it shows up. So when we have that, is to take action. I think. Because the only way that anything is going to open up or anything is going to change, matter of fact, the only way that I can see that humanity can evolve is to connect the heart with the mind, and then when you calling yourself, or when I call myself into action, when I'm willing to do something that's risky, that otherwise I wouldn't do, that's where the growth is. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Well, yeah, you're talking about like addressing yourself and sort of understanding yourself and sort of, I think anything that happens outside in that world or inside the world or wherever it may be is all to do with that particular person. You can't blame other people how you feel or what you feel or your fears or your anxieties or happy moments. That's all connected to you. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes we don't really understand ourselves enough. I think we need to sort of look inside ourselves more and not be so fearful as of the consequences, because we're all doing the same thing. We're all going to bed at night. We all get up in the morning. We all go to work. We all do roughly the same thing in different ways.
Yeah. So
why
hang
can't
on.
we contact with each
Hang
other?
on. I want to take you back to my nephew again, because there's more stuff opening up for me. So when he walked in, I know why he came. Matter of fact, I know that he knew why he came.
Well, I hope he did.
And both of us knew. I felt it energetically. I was connected to myself, and I was connected to him, and I knew immediately when he walked in what it was about.
And you was excited.
Well, I'm not sure that he was excited.
No,
he was
were excited.
uncomfortable. I experienced him being uncomfortable, and then, I had other people in the house. I had a lot of things going on. So, for me, it was kind of awkward to do what I would normally otherwise do. I mean, I was in the middle of lunch. I had a meeting coming up. There was too much going on, and I didn't say anything. I just welcomed him to the kitchen, and if he would have said something, it's kind of funny that I was waiting for him to say something. Otherwise, what I was feeling is, I really don't want to go there right now, because within 20 minutes I have a meeting. This was on Friday. And so basically, I just let it take its own course. And what I'm attempting to say is that I didn't do what I just said 5 minutes earlier, which is I didn't take action. I let it lie. Does this make sense?
Have your mouth shut.
It does. But
Am I making any sense?
Well, for me, the way it works, the way I see it is that it's not so much having to take that action in that moment. It's more that in your life you've taken some action. This is my mind read. I don't know anything about you, Steve, but this is my mind read, that in your life you've taken the action of looking at your own emotions, being conscious and living consciously with, what negative emotions you might have, and even being aware of, oh, well, this is not the best time and I feel a little bit uncomfortable. But all of that is a presence, being present to your own emotions. And I think when you're present to your own emotions, it gives him permission to be present to his emotions, whatever they are, whether they're what you'd like ideally or whether they're not. And that just gives him permission to be himself. And so it doesn't mean that you have to always take action in that moment. Often it's just being open and being present to being yourself and being who you are just allows that other person.
Yeah.
And the fact that you weren't afraid of his emotions.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here I am doing this show called the Living Consciously TV show. And I'm just reflecting back on yesterday and reflecting back the way I'm seeing it now. What I would have preferred that I would have done is I would have called him away from the kitchen, because there were other people in the kitchen. I would have called him away, like in the living room or in the front room, and say, look, I'm feeling that you came here. I just want to check this out with you. I'm feeling that you came here to talk to me about things that are going on with you, and I'm happy to do it. I just can't do it right now because I got a meeting coming up in about 20 minutes. So can we make a time either later on today or tomorrow to accomplish that? That's what I would have preferred. Mm-hmm. You know, that would have been the more conscious, the more awake person of me.
Well, that's the learning that you've gained, Steve. That's the learning that you've gained, right?
But you know, I was doing this dance, and I don't know if any one of you can identify. Do you ever do that? I was doing this dance and not really expressing myself. Does that make sense?
I think it does, but I think you have to not sort of be so hard on yourself, Steve. You can only do what you can do in any particular moment, and the relationship really is between you and the universe. So you do the best you can in the moment, and you learn from it. You do the next thing. Now, your nephew did not suffer because of this. It's like he made a move, and it took you a while to absorb it. Now you're going to make a move. Nothing has gone wrong. It's just a particular timing. There's no disaster there.
Okay.
So I think you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I actually think it probably worked out pretty good because you were both sort of not seeing each other for all that time, and then all of a sudden you're both put in a position that he wasn't prepared for and you weren't prepared for. So you've got two people not prepared for a situation that actually want to see each other. So I think it probably unfolded the way it probably should have unfolded. And I think that you got a little bit nervous about trying to do the right thing, which you didn't have to do anything at all. And I personally think that whatever you did, and I wasn't there, what probably answered the question to him. Because obviously he's coming back, you're going to call him, and everything's going to be, I don't know, fine or not, because you've got to sort it out. I don't know. That's something in the future. But I think what happened, and as Jane said, don't be hard on yourself. I think it actually worked out how it was supposed to work out. Very relaxed. Hi, how are you? Don't be hard on yourself at all on that one, at all.
Yeah, thanks, Nina. I'm not really being hard on myself. I'm just sharing myself.
Okay, I think it's perfect because often young men might not be quite ready to have that totally in consciousness first. He might want to just kind of ease in, get a sense of your presence now before even addressing it, even if you weren't going to speak about it then, but just so that he can have the choice then about whether he goes into a deep and meaningful or whether he doesn't, whether he eases in.
Yeah. It's like breaking the ice. You both broke the ice, and now it was ready for the next step.
All right, fantastic. We need to move on. So the show is actually coming to the end, believe it or not. So what I would like to do is go around the table one more time and maybe give some tips to our viewers about how to live our lives with passion and purpose. Pip, go first, please.
Well, I think the first thing is to remember your dreams and not think about the dream being an expression of specifics, but just ask yourself, what was the purpose of that dream I had when I was a child? And think about the sort of words that you want in your life. Is it freedom? Is it expression? Is it creativity? And then see how you can use those words in your everyday life. You don't have to immediately change career to live your passion and purpose. You can bring in what it is you want into any career you've currently got and work that way until you find something that's a better expression.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pip. Ninan?
Well, I think I'm older than I think all of you, and I think it's funny, when you get older, you definitely get a little bit more relaxed. You don't get afraid anymore, and you kind of do your passion. You kind of do what you really would like to do, and you become, I'm not going to say stubborn with everybody else, but you really do what you like to do. If you want to stay home, you stay home, and there's nothing wrong in anything you do. So I think sort of, and also to sort of connect with people. I think we're not connecting, and I think to connect with people and to help people, and just do your passion. If that's what you like to do, do it. And don't be afraid of your own shadow. Just do it.
Awesome. Thank you. Jane?
Well, I'd say learning to recognize, follow, and ask for inner guidance is essential in finding your passion. And it's sometimes referred to as a still small voice. It's sort of an inner prompting. And if you're distracting yourself all the time, you can't hear it. But if you're listening for it, if you're looking for it, even if you sort of suggest to yourself before you go to bed at night, for guidance for moving forward in your life, it's an openness to an inner prompting that can lead you in the direction of your passion and inspiration.
Great, thank you, Jane. And you, Helen?
For me, it's similar to that. It's like quietening your mind, quieten your mind, open your mind, and ask. Give yourself permission to ask. Recognize there's no right or wrong way. There's no one telling you what you have to do. It's up to you. You just ask, but be open, and you have to do it from a space of quiet, turning off the logical thinking mind and connecting with the heart.
Thank you. And what's coming to me is that I don't believe, at least for me, that living with passion and purpose is possible until we heal ourselves, until we heal the wounded child within us. And I think that's where that inside job begins. And then once we heal it, then from there, anything is possible, including living life with passion and purpose.
Okay.
So I want to thank everybody.
It was the opposite for me.
So I want to thank everybody.
The other.
I want to thank everybody on the cast for being here on the show today, especially our guest cast, Pip McKay, and also everybody behind the glass for making this show technically possible, and of course all of our viewers for being with us. And if you have got anything on this show today, anything that you were touched, moved, and inspired by, please go to livingconsciously.co and join our membership site and allow any of our cast members to assist you. And other than that, this is the last show on our fourth season. So we're starting season 5 in 2 weeks, and I hope you will be here on December 1st for a kickoff. And other than that, I love you all, and we'll see you on the next live show on December 1st, 2012. Thank you so much, and see you next time.